The NBA regular season finale didn't just wrap up a long 82-game journey, it completely reshaped the entire playoff picture. Because going into the final day of the 2025-2026 regular season, not a single playoff matchup was locked in. Everything was still on the table, seeds were shifting, teams were calculating, and the final tip-offs of the night would decide absolutely everything. The final chaos begins. All eyes were on two games in particular, the Los Angeles Lakers versus Utah Jazz, and the Denver Nuggets versus San Antonio Spurs. The Lakers entered as heavy favorites, and they did exactly what was expected. A dominant 131-107 win over the Jazz. Clean, controlled, no surprises. That win alone temporarily pushed them up the standings and created a ripple effect across the Western Conference. Because if Denver slipped, the entire bracket would shift. Denver's strategic gamble. But Denver wasn't playing for pride anymore. They were playing chess. The Nuggets had already locked in a playoff spot. But the question was simple. Do you fight for seeding or manipulate the bracket? Denver rested nearly their entire core rotation. Everyone except Nikola Jokic. Why? Because Jokic needed at least 15 minutes to qualify for end-of-season awards. And of course, he didn't just play 15 minutes. He delivered 23 points and 8 rebounds in only 18 minutes, even in a rest game. He looked like the best player on the planet, but despite the individual brilliance, Denver still had business to handle. The Spurs' opportunity. San Antonio saw the opening. They were facing a depleted Nuggets team, a chance to shift the Western Conference entirely, because if the Spurs won, Denver could potentially drop in seeding and completely reshape the playoff matchups. But there was a problem. Even with most of Denver resting, even with San Antonio playing almost full strength, the Nuggets still controlled the game and eventually closed it out 128-118. Just like that, Denver locked in the 3 seed, and the entire Western Conference bracket froze into place. The tanking debate returns. For days leading up to this moment, the NBA world was debating one thing. Should Denver avoid Minnesota? Some said yes, some said no. But the reality? Nobody wanted Minnesota, and nobody wanted Denver either. Because for the third time in 4 years, these two teams are set to collide in the playoffs. Denver versus Minnesota? No escape. This matchup isn't new anymore. It's becoming a rivalry. Denver went 3-1 against Minnesota this season, but that doesn't tell the full story. Because now, Minnesota is healthy, focused, and battle-tested after back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances. This is not an easy first-round matchup. This is a war. And even though Denver is favored, nobody is walking into this series comfortably. The real truth about ducking. For all the talk about Denver possibly avoiding Minnesota, the same conversation was happening elsewhere. Oklahoma City didn't want Denver. San Antonio didn't want Oklahoma City. And suddenly, everyone was trying to avoid someone. The Thunder even rested key rotation players earlier in the week to help shape the bracket. And the Spurs had their chance to control destiny, but couldn't finish the job. That one loss might echo all off-season. Oklahoma City, the silent winner. While everyone else debated matchups, the Oklahoma City Thunder quietly won everything. Their path? Almost unreal. Minnesota, Denver, and San Antonio all landed on the opposite side of the bracket, meaning OKC only has to face one of them to reach the finals. Even better, they avoid multiple elite matchups entirely unless chaos unfolds. This is the definition of a dream bracket. And it gets worse for the rest of the league, because OKC is already one of the most complete teams in basketball. The Spurs' problem nobody is talking about. Here's where things get interesting. San Antonio actually matches up well with Oklahoma City. They've beaten them 4-1 this season, but now they might never even get there because Denver sits directly in their path. And historically, that is a nightmare matchup. Nikola Jokic versus Victor Wembanyama. Two generational talents, but Jokic's ability to pull defenders away from the rim neutralizes Wembanyama's defensive impact in ways most teams can't replicate, and the Spurs now risk never even reaching the matchup they wanted. Houston, Lakers, and the other side. On the other side of the bracket, things are much simpler. The Lakers and Rockets are set to face each other. A high-profile, high-pressure series, but ultimately a matchup many teams would have preferred to avoid later in the playoffs. Because whoever survives that side will likely run into OKC, and that's where the real problem begins. The NBA's biggest loser. Ironically, the biggest loser of all this isn't a team. It's the NBA itself. Because instead of Thunder versus Nuggets, Spurs versus Timberwolves, we now get a fractured playoff structure where elite matchups are delayed or lost entirely. Instead of early chaos, we might get predictable outcomes. And that hurts the product. Because fans didn't want balance, they wanted war. Play in chaos adds another twist. And just when things couldn't get more chaotic, the play-in tournament shifted everything again. The Portland Trail Blazers defeated Sacramento, locking in the 8 seed, which means the Clippers fall to the 9 seed and now face a do-or-die matchup against the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry versus Kawhi Leonard. Win or go home. One game ends a season, the other keeps it alive. And the NBA couldn't have scripted a better spotlight matchup. Except it wasn't even supposed to happen here. More bracket shockwaves. The winner of Phoenix versus Portland will take the 7 seed, and that team will face San Antonio in round 1. Meanwhile, the loser drops into elimination territory. Everything is razor thin. Every possession matters. Every game becomes survival. The East is just as brutal. Out east, the picture is finally clear. Knicks versus Hawks in a likely 6-7 game war. Cavaliers versus Raptors in a physical 4-5 battle. Celtics and Pistons waiting in the wings. And then, the play-in. Orlando versus Philadelphia, 7 saddle. Charlotte versus Miami. Nothing is easy. Nothing is safe. What this season really showed. This season didn't just end. It evolved. It exposed how thin the margins really are. One game decides everything. One loss changes a franchise. One win reshapes an entire bracket. And now, the NBA enters the playoffs with more uncertainty than ever. The final picture. We now head into a postseason where OKC has the clearest path. Denver versus Minnesota is an early war. Spurs are stuck in chaos. Lakers and Rockets collide early. Warriors and Clippers fight for survival, and every single series feels like it could shift the entire league. This is just the beginning. Because if the regular season ended like this, the playoffs are about to go even harder. Every possession will matter, every mistake will cost games, and every star will be tested. The NBA didn't settle anything, it only made things more dangerous. So, who do you think came out of this regular season finale as the biggest winner? Was it the Oklahoma City Thunder with their perfect bracket path, the Denver Nuggets locking in another brutal playoff matchup, or the Lakers and Rockets finally getting their showdown? Comment below, hit like if you love NBA chaos like this, and subscribe for more deep breakdowns you won't see anywhere else. Because if the regular season ended like this, the NBA playoffs are about to be absolute madness.